Welcome to Unstoppable, where dreams turn into plans and plans turn into powerful action. Hosted by Paula Swain, financial planner, business owner, grandma, and queen of reinvention. This show is for women ready to stop surviving and start thriving. We'll laugh, we'll learn, and we'll tackle the messy, beautiful, in-between parts of life that no one really talks about, but we all live through. This is Unstoppable.
Hi, and welcome to Unstoppable. So I know a lot of people maybe not happy in their current career or want to make a transition, or maybe you've just been recently let go or laid off. And it's not that easy to know how to put that resume together, know how to search for a job on LinkedIn. I mean, if I had to write a resume today, there's absolutely no way that I could write it. And jobs have changed, like you have to submit something and then you get rejected like in 5 minutes. And so I've asked my friend Monica Fochtman to come in and talk to us about how to write your resume, how to job search, some of the things that you should look at when you're doing career transitions. So welcome, Monica.
Thanks, Paula. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited for you to be here too. So Monica was a guest on my podcast, Beyond the Paycheck, that I don't know, I think I've had like 100 and almost 200 episodes. So you can always go and check that out, my podcast, Beyond the Paycheck. But now we're doing this show, Unstoppable. So Monica, how do you write a resume? It's not that easy.
You're right. It's not that easy. So how to actually do it, I would suggest, well, it depends on the situation that you're in and the timeline that you have. But the best way, honestly, is to start from scratch. And I know that that can feel overwhelming or intimidating to people, but it's easier to start new and then build than it is to add on to an existing document. Because when we add on to an existing document, we literally just add on and we never take away. And then it gets long and wordy and ineffective. So the best strategy, honestly, is to open a new Word document or a Google Doc or the Notes app on your phone and start writing, not about what you do, but about what you've achieved, what you've accomplished. What are some of the things that only you could do? Because that's the difference maker in your document.
I think it's hard for people to brag about their achievements. So that could be hard for someone to say, well, I got this certification and I increased sales this, or even somebody who's maybe changing from a sales position that wants a management role, or somebody that was, maybe in landscaping now wants to go into a different field. How do you take your old skills and your old achievements and make them relevant to the job that you're applying for?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And you're exactly right. It is hard to talk about ourselves and it's hard to write about ourselves. And that's why I suggest starting fresh. Another great way to do it is to talk to people, talk to maybe not your boss if they don't know that you're searching, but talk to some trusted coworkers, previous clients, people who know and love you and who want the best for you, and ask them, when you think of me, what do you think of? Or especially a client, how has our relationship helped you and helped your business? Because that's how you're going to get to the difference maker pieces. You don't want your resume to just say, unloaded boxes or traveled to landscaping sites and mowed lawns. You'd want it to say, used excellent communication skills to establish relationships with clients, always arrived on time and ensured quality production. Right? Those might be examples of how you can say what you've done, but to give the language some oomph. And when I'm working with clients, they are always saying, well, I don't have metrics or I don't have achievements. And that's not true. Once you really dig in and think about, again, what are the pieces that only you could have done, that's where you're going to get to the good stuff. And another way to think about metrics is also how frequently you did something. So if you're a salesperson, were you out in the field every day, once a week? What are your quarterly numbers? What are your monthly numbers? There are all kinds of ways to quantify things that people don't often think about, because they're just doing their jobs every day. But really, it's about taking a step back so that you can really dig in and dig deep.
So how often, or do you even suggest that people use AI? I mean, I use AI all the time now. It's become my assistant. I actually wrote the questions I'm asking you today. Um, so it helps me out a lot. I even used AI to write my dating profile. So what I did is I took in the things that I was looking for in a partner and things about myself and asked it to write something. And someone told me that if you're applying for a job and it lists the qualifications, that you can even incorporate that into AI so that it's answering those qualifications with your skills. Am I
Mhm.
correct?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, AI is a great place to get started. Um, Definitely for cover letters. And I mean, I'm a writer and I do this for a living. And sometimes if I'm stuck, I will use AI to help me get started. I don't ever, though, and I don't ever advise clients to take what AI has given you and just copy and paste directly into your resume or cover letter. Because it's not perfect and it is fallible and it's not your voice, but it is a great place to get started. Absolutely, especially if you're stuck. AI can be great for cover letters, for helping you create interview questions, and for resume bullets for sure. But I would just caution against using a direct copy and paste. And because it's a robot, it sounds robotic,
Yeah.
right? So you'd want language to reflect how you would actually speak with someone in person.
Yeah, sometimes it gets very flowery, like it uses a lot of adjectives and you're like, what? Nobody uses those words,
Yes.
so yeah,
Yeah.
you
And,
have to be very
and
careful with AI. So how,
yeah, and a
go ahead,
great
I'm
question
sorry.
is to say, like, would I really say this?
Yes. Yes, you do have to edit when you use AI. Now, I know
Yes.
I haven't looked for a job in 20, many years. We'll just go with that, many years. And so I haven't had to have a resume. I don't have to apply. And it's different. It's not the same. Like you just can't walk into a company and drop off a resume like you were able to before. It's more
Right.
about networking and using LinkedIn as a resource to look for opportunities and look for employment.
Mhm.
So how do you use
Yes.
LinkedIn?
Yeah, LinkedIn is essential in today's job market. And, so I encourage everyone to be on LinkedIn and to have a complete and robust profile. Um, you're absolutely right. It's very different from how it was, even 5, 10 years ago. And LinkedIn is a free tool that is available to anyone and is another layer, another source, another way of branding yourself, right? And putting yourself out there. So yes, LinkedIn is absolutely essential and honestly can be quite fun, right? If you're using it correctly, so you have a complete profile and you're spending some of your time on LinkedIn to network and connect with people and the other part of your time to actually job search.
I also think it's a good resource too. If you have an interview with, let's say, XYZ company, you can search who's working at that company. You may have um, a second connection with someone, which means
Yep.
somebody else knows that person and maybe can put in a good word for you.
100%. Yes, absolutely. And you can and should do all of those things as a job searcher. You can and should be following companies and the people who work there and using the LinkedIn tools to see how you are connected to someone and absolutely asking for a referral, either before you've applied or directly after you've applied, and even if you've made it as far as the interview, because people hire people and people want to hire people that they know. So anything that you can do to up the ante for your application is a good thing, and LinkedIn can help you do that.
So, what other resources other than LinkedIn? I know there's Indeed, and that's just about as much as I know. So, What other resources are there?
Well, so yeah, I mean, and I think that's part of why people are overwhelmed, honestly, is because there are so many places and so many resources to look. So, Indeed, Glassdoor, FlexJobs, Remote.co, even like certified B corporations have their own search engine. So really, those are all places to look for roles, and of course, directly on an organization's website.
Well,
The
how do you?
best
Oh,
place
go.
to
I'm sorry.
network, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go
The
ahead.
best
Finish
place
this.
to network is LinkedIn.
Now, because from what I understand from my children, when they're looking for jobs, is that they have to, like if they're using Indeed, they just send in a resume and a cover
Mm-hmm.
letter. How do you make yourself stand out? So if you've got competing against 1,000 people, how do you make yourself stand out?
Mm-hmm. Yep. The first thing I suggest is that you always apply directly on the company website. So Indeed, LinkedIn, Glassdoor, these are all, search engines and like databases that hold your files. So they get to the employer eventually, but a way to accelerate that process is to always apply directly on the company webpage. And the best way to stand out is to really ensure that you are using the language of the target. So when we were talking about someone making a career shift from, sales to landscaping or vice versa, it's really important that you've done your work to translate your old experience into the language of the new target. And that really honestly is the biggest mistake that job seekers are making is they're not doing that legwork to translate for the new audience. So for example, you wouldn't go to an interview with Nike using language from Adidas, right?
Oh yeah,
Or
that
you
seems
wouldn't
like
go
that would be a big mistake.
right? And that also demonstrates to the employer that you've done your homework and you know what their brand is, and that you want to be part of it, that you can help accelerate it. Um,
So what?
so
Okay,
you
so you submit your resume
Mhm.
and you don't get a call. Is there a way that you can then, like I just remember, I know it's been a long time, but I just know that you could call them up and say, hey, did you get my resume? Like,
Mhm.
you send out the thank you letters. I don't know that people send out thank you letters anymore. I mean, you want to stand out. So
Yeah.
I know how to stand out, in the 80s and 90s. I'm not sure I know how to stand out today if I was going to be looking for employment because it's so different. The tools are different. The way that you find jobs are different. So I want to stand out. I want
Mhm.
to be one of those resumes that gets stuck on the top.
Mhm. Yep. So a couple things there, Paula. So no response or a quick rejection is a resume problem. It means that your whatever you submitted on the resume didn't match the target enough.
Oh, okay.
Um, so that's one thing. So if you're not getting to the interview, it's a document problem. Other ways to really make sure that you're standing out is to send those thank yous, especially if you've made it to the interview. It takes 2 minutes to either on LinkedIn or over email send someone a thank you note. Other ways to really stand out are to make sure that you're on LinkedIn and that you have, like I said, a complete and robust profile, but also that you're using the profile to elevate yourself and to elevate your brand, and that you're clear in how you can help them,
So you're talking
right?
about
And
self-promoting. You're self-promoting
what
yourself. So you
absolutely,
should
and
be you should
that
be
can be hard,
posting,
um,
yeah,
but
posting
it's
on LinkedIn and um, some of your accomplishments, or if you had a win at work or something, just to say, here I am. This is the kind of person that I am. I also know
absolutely,
that you need to be watching your other social media because they will look, and
they will.
handing a cocktail in your hand and dancing on the bars probably not a good look.
100%, yes, and that's new, right? For even me, right? As
Oh,
I
dancing
grew
on
up
the
in a
bar is new for
generation,
you?
we didn't have social media. Um, yeah, and I have two teen sons, and we're constantly talking about, what are you putting out there, knowing that it lives forever. Social media wants us to think that everything is, temporary and you're going to miss out, right? But it goes on and it will follow you. So yes, absolutely. You want to, especially for younger job seekers, maybe that are coming right, from college. Um, you want to call your social media profiles and make sure that there's, we always say don't put anything on there that you wouldn't want your grandma to see.
So you could actually go through and delete things from your social media. And then I do know also that in Facebook, which is usually the only social media that I use, you can make it so that if somebody takes a picture of you that they think is funny and tags you, that you have the
Mm-hmm.
right to not have that photo put at least on your page.
Correct. Yep. Yep.
Okay,
You can limit privacy and who can tag you. Yeah.
so let's switch subjects for a moment. A lot of women leave their careers to raise children or to take care of family members. How
Mm-hmm.
do how do you account for that gap in your resume?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I always advise clients to frame it positively, right? So many of us take a defensive approach, right? Like, oh, well, I'm just a mom, or I was just home taking care of my kids. And I actually wrote about that on LinkedIn a few days ago about removing the word just from our vocabularies because no one is just anything. So to really frame it positively and to talk about, what you were doing, you weren't just staying home, you were caring for people and keeping them alive. And that's a job. Many people are also doing that while caring for elderly family members. So you have two full-time jobs, right? The sandwich generation of professionals, of women especially. Were you a volunteer? Were you, the community garden coordinator? Were you helping out at your children's school? Um, all women especially volunteer all the time and underestimate the value of that experience.
Well, if you
So
think
to
about
always
that,
frame it positively.
if you think about that, managing three children's schedules, managing, the
Finances.
household, being involved in the PTA, maybe
Mhm.
charity events, those are all skills that are management skills. And
Absolutely.
so framed right could be a positive on a resume.
100%. Absolutely. On LinkedIn as well. LinkedIn now has the ability to list what they've called a career break. And you can actually use that space and give yourself a title and explain in the text underneath, what you were doing.
Okay, we're going to switch subjects again. And so you got the interview. Yay, we got the interview. I know from personal experience from friends of mine that own businesses that they're amazed at that the people that show up late
Mm-hmm.
aren't dressed appropriately for the position.
Mm-hmm.
How do you prepare for, well, and then they don't know anything about the company. So how do you prepare? Because that first impression is everything. Like you have to make that good first impression. How do you
Yeah,
do that? And then overcome the nerves because sometimes you really
sure.
want something and when you really want it, you get excited and you could become me. Like I constantly put my foot in my mouth and struggle with my words like I am right now. So like how do you how do you how do you prepare for that interview?
Yeah. Well, the first thing obviously is to show up on time, early, to be dressed appropriately. A quick thing about dress, you're allowed to ask. If you're unclear, what should I wear to this in terms of, should I be, tend to more formal or business casual? You're allowed to ask the recruiter or the hiring manager, you know, what is the expected dress for this? That is 100% okay to ask. And then in terms of preparation, prepare. So many people think like, oh, well, I'm easy to talk to and, I don't need to prep for this. I'm really good on the fly. Most people are actually not good on the fly. And like you said, if this is something that you really want, those nerves are gonna take over, and you're gonna fumble. So prepare, right? Use ChatGPT or AI to help you come up with a list of questions. Record yourself, especially if that first interview is over Zoom or some sort, of virtual meeting platform. Record yourself first. Make sure you've got good lighting, that you're looking at the camera, that you have good positive body language. All of those things will help ease those day of nerves.
I know I'm working on that myself, looking at the camera as I'm talking to you, and I really want to look at your face. I just
Right, it's
have to
hard.
look at the camera, and it's really difficult to
Yes,
not want to go look at your eyes because eye contact is so important. But when you're doing a
yep,
Zoom meeting, you're actually looking at that little tiny camera or even above it sometimes and not
yes,
at the people. So like I
right.
just looked at the screen where you were on right now.
Yeah, it's
It's hard.
hard. And it gets distracting for everyone, right? But especially the employer who's asking you the questions, right? Like if you're fidgeting in your seat, or you're looking at the wrong spot, or you're drinking your coffee or water during the interview, right? All of those things are distracting. And also, subconsciously the interviewer is thinking, okay, well, you're not ready for this. You must not want this.
I'm thinking of all the mistakes that I'm making right now. Although you can't see me on screen because I'm drinking my water when I know that nobody can see me.
Oh, you're doing great. We're
And
doing
I'm
great.
looking at my notes and I'm, listening to things that are going around. So I struggle with, focus a lot of times. So, okay, I got the first interview. I've done the second interview, the third interview. Now I'm being offered the
Yep.
job. It now becomes the salary negotiation. And I'm
Mhm.
not sure if all jobs have salary negotiation, but even if you need a certain dollar, which to me means prior to job searching, you should sit down and
Right,
figure out a budget to know what you really need and include
right.
savings in that so that, if someone says, I'm going to pay you $25 an hour, but I really need 30 to be able
Hmm.
to support my lifestyle, then
Hmm.
it's easy for me then to say, maybe this isn't the right job, or to say, well, is there flexibility between that $25 an hour or 30, or if it's $50,000 salary to 80? Like, how do you have that
Right,
whole discussion?
right. Absolutely. Well, a couple things. First, yes, you should have a general sense of the range before you even interview. And that's a recruiter's job, right? And usually one of the very first questions they will ask you in that first screening conversation, what are your salary expectations? So if you've progressed through the interview and you're getting to the offer, um, hopefully, ideally, you're close to each other already. Um, it's really, really important to negotiate for women, especially. Women do not negotiate the way that men do, and it costs us over the course of our careers. So the first thing I would say is negotiate, and to think of salary and benefits separately, right? Those are two separate categories, and together those equal total compensation. And everything is negotiable: salary, benefits, time away, um, remote opportunities, how quickly are you vested, say, in the health insurance? All of those pieces are negotiable. So to do your research up front and know what your number is, and also what an industry expectation of the range is,
So how do
and
you
to actually ask,
how do
right, to
you
have a conversation.
so how do you know what the industry expectation is? I mean,
Mhm.
I could look at that a different way. So I'm just graduating from college versus maybe somebody who's going back into the workforce,
Right.
or somebody who just was laid off and they really just need the job. I mean, how do I know? First of all, I guess it's knowing your value, but then also knowing what you need. But then how do I know what I should expect to be paid? So if you say ask, you're talking having that conversation in the first interview. But what
Mhm.
if I said, I'm expecting 50,000 and the job was going to pay 80 and I just underpriced myself?
Right. Right. Exactly. Exactly. uh, so there are all kinds of websites. of course I'm blanking right now because I'm on the spot, but there are tools and resources that can help you with that. The one I can think of right now is roberthalf.com. But honestly, again, if you use AI and just Google, salary negotiation, tips, websites, they'll come up. Glassdoor does have that as well. And sometimes even, on LinkedIn, the posting will say the expected range for this salary is. And that's actually a requirement now in New York State and California as well. So there'll be a range right in the posting. But yeah, to research, use again roberthalf.com, other salary.com. There's websites, even there's federal, government websites that can help you with that as well. And if you're too far apart, I know it's hard, especially in this market, to say no to a role. But if you're too far apart, sometimes you do have to walk away. Not ideal, but it does happen.
Yeah, I think that's a struggle for a lot of people because when you're in that situation and the situation of desperation, you're willing
Absolutely.
to accept something even if it's not the role. And that goes back to, I always go back to my mindset and working within that when you're feeling that desperation is when you're not going to find what you want. But if you just go in confident that you're qualified and they're going to give you what you need and just manifest that, use your I am affirmations, that the positive, I know I'm funny with all this stuff, but the universe is going to deliver it to you by just
Absolutely.
knowing your value, knowing your worth, and just going in there with confidence to say, I need 80,000. I know you are only going to give me 75, but I need 80, and I'm so valuable
Yep.
that they'll give you the 80. I
Yep.
live in the positive
100%.
world, so
I totally agree. And situation dictates strategy, right? So, everyone should negotiate. A newer graduate or a newer professional has a little less leverage to do so because they don't have the work experience yet, right? They can still ask, and they should. Um, Perhaps less likely that they'll get what they're asking for. Now, a mid-career professional, a senior professional who's been in the workforce, 8, 10, 15 years has leverage because they do have experience to back up the ask. And yes, 100%, it shouldn't be an adversarial, fight, right? It should be a conversation because if you've gotten to the offer stage, they want you. And so it's in everyone's best interest to come to a mutually beneficial agreement.
So we're running out of time, but I want to ask you one final question. What is one action step someone could take 5 minutes after watching this show to take action towards finding a new career or just taking the step to start that resume?
Yeah. I would say, so there's that old saying, keep it simple, stupid. I would change that and say, keep it small. This market is hard. Job searching is hard. And a lot of us wait till we feel confident to take action, but it's actually taking action that helps us feel confident. So do one small thing. Maybe that is actually opening your old resume and looking at it. Maybe it's making an appointment to have a new headshot done so that you can put it on LinkedIn, or emailing or texting an old friend and asking them to coffee so that you can start to network with that person. But whatever you do something and keep it small, because that's how you're going to get momentum, and then the momentum will bring the confidence.
Well, Monica, I think you forgot something.
What
about giving you a call?
Oh, yes.
You got to promote yourself.
That would be. Yes, I'm right. Back to the whole, we're not good at talking about ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Give
can, yes,
Monica
I would
a call,
absolutely love
and she can
to help.
Give Monica a call, and she can help you get started on the resume and do some
I
career
can.
transition
Yep.
coaching. So she has a lot of services that she offers. So I
Yep.
want to.
And please check out my website. There's all kinds of great blog post there with all kinds of freebies as well.
So I want to thank you today, Monica, for being with us on the show. I just couldn't get that out of my mouth, but I really appreciate your wisdom that you're sharing. And
Well, thank you for the invitation.
you're welcome. So please, if you are looking for a job, you want to change careers, do reach out to Monica. Like she said, start looking on LinkedIn, start working on your resume, and give yourself a level up by just taking the steps that she showed us today or told us today to get yourself that new opportunity that you're looking for. So this is Unstoppable. I'm Paula Swain, and this is where we dream, grow, and thrive. And join us next week when we'll talk to Alexis Parks from LaFontaine Automotive Group, who's going to tell us how to buy, lease a new car or used car and all the things that we need to know. So thanks for watching. Take care.
Thanks for watching Unstoppable. Do you have a question for Paula? Send it our way. To schedule a one-on-one consultation, give us a call. Unstoppable is brought to you by Paula Swain and the Financial Center for Women. Dream, grow, thrive.